In this video presentation, we're going to cover console options for design, part 2. Select Tools, drop down, Options, and we're going to cover this section down here in this video. The first thing would be the footprint naming convention. The footprint naming convention, you could use the IPC 7351B, which was released in 2010. It's 14 years old. It's a very minimized naming convention. It doesn't include thermal pads or terminal leads. And 7352 does contain thermal pads, but it doesn't contain terminal leads. And this PCB Libraries naming convention includes everything for the footprint name. And the PCB Libraries naming convention originally started as IPC 7351C. And it was in the standard, C standard, for 5 years. The committee of the IPC approved it. They helped create it, and we had it named originally as IPC 7351C, and then we had to rename it to PCB Libraries because 7351C was never released. It's an unreleased standard. So PCB Libraries is really IPC 7351C, which was approved by the standard committee, but never released. To create the footprint name using units, the footprint name is normally created in millimeter units. However, if you're working in mil units, you might want to change your footprint name to be in mil units too. In other words, you want everything to be in mil units all the way up and down. The next is the density level suffix. We have least, nominal, most. Most people use the nominal density level, but this is a toggle for when you want to batch build a library. Of course, when you batch build a library, you're going to have the option to change your density level at that point too. So let's say that you want to create a least library, you would open up options and change the density level to least, and then you would just batch build or individually build a certain part into least density level. The next option is replace density level suffix. So the density level suffix is going to be L, N, or M, depending on the density level per IPC. But if you want to create a wave solder library, which is the pads are a little bit more robust in the length and maybe not so robust in the width, or maybe you want to create a flexible circuit library where the pads are solder mask defined, then you're going to want to put FLX or WAV or anything that you want. If you want to create a custom library and you want to batch build a custom library, you want to set up all your settings and you want to have an extension at the end of the footprint name, you can put it right here. The pad stack naming convention is going to be 7352. 7351 was used for the past 10 years. 7352 was released last year in 2023, and it only added for rounded rectangle pad shapes and through-hole pad shapes. For square and rectangle, it just added CR, SR for square and radius, and then RR for rounded rectangle. And that's the only difference between the two pad stack naming conventions. The 7352 elaborated heavily on the rounded cornered and chamfered cornered pad stacks. The next option is create pad stack name in what units. And IPC and all their standards have the pad stack name definitely in millimeter units. But again, if you're working in mil units, maybe you want to have your pad stack name in mil units. Okay, there's all the units right there. The next option is ignore manufacturer's footprint dimensions for batch build. And if you turn this feature on, it'll ignore all of the footprint dimensions that you inserted for the manufacturer's dimensions, and it'll only apply the IPC dimensions for the footprint. Okay, and so I don't think that you'd want to turn this on unless you're a company that uses POD, and every part that you download from POD has the manufacturer's recommended pattern in it in the FPX file, and you don't have to go through the process of deleting those dimensions or anything else. Just click this button here and it'll ignore them. The next option is include suffix and footprint name. So if you don't want the L or the N or the M in the footprint name for the suffix, for the density level, just uncheck this button and you won't get a density level suffix. The next option is generate solder mask. If you don't want to generate any solder mask, if you want to have pads without solder mask, and maybe you want to do the solder mask in your CAD tool or have the manufacturer put it in, then you would uncheck this button. Of course, the default is turned on. Everybody wants solder mask in their pad stacks. The next option is generate surface mount paste mask. Of course, if you're doing surface mount parts, you're going to want to put paste mask. But where you wouldn't put paste mask in would be for do not install parts. So if you have a component on your board, okay, and you have a footprint, and you don't want any paste mask on that footprint, you would uncheck this box. Okay. Now you could do this here globally, but you could also do it locally in your calculator options. Okay. Now the next option is generate through-hole paste mask. This is primarily for pin and paste technology, where you want to have the paste mask in the through-hole pads on the top layer, where when it goes to the reflow oven, the paste mask will melt off the pad and fall into the hole, and therefore you don't have to wave solder. Turn this on if you want to generate paste mask in your through-hole pad stacks. That concludes this video presentation on console options for design.
Simplify, standardize, and automate an entire IPC and IEC compliant library. Detailed, accurate, reliable, professional. Highest quality footprints and 3D step models, clicks away. Many companies worldwide are easily generating their CAD libraries. You should too. Get a fully functional Footprint Expert Evaluation license for any CAD format and demo today. Contact us at PCBlibraries.com or call 847-557-2300.